Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling confused, like you should know what just happened, but somehow you don't? Maybe you were sure about something a moment ago, and now you're doubting your memory, your reaction, or even your judgment. That experience isn't weakness. It's a psychological pattern called gaslighting. Today we're breaking down why gaslighting works so well, and more importantly, how to shut it down before it takes hold. Gaslighting isn't loud, it's subtle. It doesn't usually look like insults or arguments. It looks like confusion, doubt, and second-guessing yourself. Let's say you bring up something that bothered you. The other person responds with, "Are you sure that's what happened?" Or, "You're overthinking this." At first it feels minor, but over time those small moments add up. The goal isn't to win an argument. The goal is to make you question your own perception. And that's exactly why it works. Gaslighting works because the human brain is wired for trust and coherence. We naturally assume that people close to us are acting in good faith. We assume our memories should line up with what others say. And we assume that disagreement means we missed something. So when someone repeatedly challenges your version of events, your brain tries to resolve the conflict by doubting you instead. Here's the key insight. Gaslighting doesn't overpower you. It invites you to override yourself. The confusion feels internal, even though the pressure is external. Centuries ago, thinkers like Machiavelli observed that influence works best when it's subtle rather than forceful. Modern psychology shows the same principle applies here. When influence is indirect, people don't resist it. They internalize it. That's why gaslighting doesn't feel like control. It feels like you might be mistaken. Let's look at the first common pattern. Pattern 1 is reality denial. This is when someone flatly denies events you clearly remember. "It didn't happen like that." "You're remembering it wrong." "That's not what I said." This works because your brain assumes memory errors are more likely than deliberate distortion. To shut this down, stop debating single moments. Start noticing patterns. If confusion keeps happening again and again, that's your signal. Writing things down, even casually, restores clarity quickly. Pattern 2 is emotional dismissal. This sounds like, "You're too sensitive," or, "You're making a big deal out of nothing." This works because many of us were taught that emotions need external justification. Here's the truth. Feelings don't need permission. You don't argue about whether a feeling exists. You decide what it means for you. When someone dismisses emotions instead of addressing concerns, that tells you more than their explanation ever will. Pattern 3 is blame shifting. This is when the conversation somehow becomes your fault. "If you hadn't reacted that way. If you were clearer. If you weren't so difficult." Self-reflection is usually healthy, but gaslighting turns it into self-doubt. To shut this down, remember this. Responsibility is not the same as self-blame. You can examine your behavior without erasing theirs. If accountability only flows one way, pause. Over time, these patterns don't just cause stress. They slowly affect confidence, trust in memory, and decision-making. People start asking, "Am I the problem?" Even when the pattern says otherwise. The important part is this. Once you can name the pattern, its power drops quickly. Awareness breaks the loop. Not every disagreement is gaslighting. Not every mistake is manipulation. The line is crossed when confusion replaces clarity, doubt replaces dialogue, and you feel less sure of yourself over time. So how do you shut gaslighting down for good? Gaslighting works best when it stays unnamed. You protect yourself by tracking patterns, not moments, by trusting consistency over explanations, and by grounding yourself outside the interaction. You don't need to confront aggressively. You don't need to prove anything. Clarity is the defense. Gaslighting doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. Once you understand why it works, you stop internalizing the confusion and start trusting yourself again. If this helped you recognize something you've experienced, you're not alone. And you're not imagining it.